Welcome to Old Brother, a podcast about Salford/Manchester's finest musical institution, The Fall. As you know, each week we invite along a guest to discuss their memories and relationship with the group, as well as whatever else tickles our fancy. For this episode, we spoke to writer, podcaster, actor, comedian and long-time Fall fan, Mr. Adam Buxton. A marvellous time was had by all. Hope you enjoy it.
Hello, welcome to the latest edition of Old Brother with me, Paul Hanley.
And me, Steve Hanley.
Are you well, Steve?
I'm okay.
Are we going to keep this up, this pretence where we haven't actually spoke to each other
to
until we switch the mic on?
For the last 2 days. We've been doing a lot of that talking, haven't we?
Yeah, but I know, but by definition, we're in the same room. Right?
Yeah.
It would have been really weird if you came in and said, right, switching it on.
We're not speaking until the mic goes on.
And by the same magic of podcast, we'll say hello to our guest, Adam Buxton, who we haven't spoke to yet either because the tape wasn't running. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Oh.
How are you guys doing?
We're good, thank you. You?
Yeah, very well. Nice to see you both.
Yes.
Nice to meet you as well. I've never met you in real life. I've seen you play. I saw House of All last year in Norwich.
Did you?
Did you? Why didn't you say hello?
Oh, because I'm a very low-key person. Also, I was with my son, and I think we were driving, and I think we had to get home at a certain time. So we may have missed the very final number, but you were great.
Oh,
well, we do try and go on early. You know, when you get to a certain age, gigs at 11:30 have got less appeal than they used to have, I have to say.
I bet they do. I was thinking about that, actually. I was thinking, like, how much fun. It looked like you guys were having fun up there, but is it still fun to go around and tour? I mean, I'm 56, and every time I play more than 3 shows in a single week or something, I feel absolutely wiped out for the next month.
Well, we don't play that much, to be honest. I mean, but
that's how we do it, about 3 a week for over the course of about a month. So
yeah,
it's not exactly the Bob Dylan endless tour we're doing. But
how does he do it?
I don't know. He sits down a lot. I know that.
Yeah,
and so do I. I sit down throughout, but I'm still knackered by the end of it. I don't know. I don't think he knows how not to do it, does he? I think you get to a certain point. It's like Lemmy. Have you ever seen Lemmy shuffling onto the stage and then coming to life as soon as he starts singing and then shuffling off again? I think some performers we're not there yet, are we?
Not quite. Not
quite. This time next year we might be. Yes, we're playing again next year if you fancy coming along.
Yeah, definitely. No, I thought it was a great show. I really liked it. And it was good. It was like you know when it's a really good show because even if you're not familiar with the numbers, you're enjoying them. You know, there was a few numbers I didn't know there. And I had heard the album, but still, I wasn't that familiar with it. So it was
very nice of you to say so.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it was good.
You remember it in Norwich gig? It was good, wasn't it? I think.
They all blurred into one for me, Steve. You know that.
Upstairs above Rock City, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, and that's the big thing that makes it whether it's a really enjoyable thing or not.
Yeah,
the load in is the one.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
and that was a good load in, was it?
I think they had a lift.
They had a lift.
They had a lift, so that always helps.
It was a good gig.
that's the waterfront in Norwich, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's good venue. Good venue.
Oh,
so it brings us on nicely to our question that we'd always like to ask our guests. What was that? What was your first encounter with the Fall, either on record or radio or live or?
Oh gosh, I remember it very clearly. Actually, I was a student in Cheltenham. I was at the College of Art there studying sculpture, and I was in a horrible damp flat that I shared with a few fashion students. And one of them was going out with an older guy who was one of the tutors at the art school. And he was a lot more sophisticated than the rest of us. And he was playing a track called Telephone Thing from one of the LPs that had just come out. I think, what's that, Shift Work maybe or something like that? Extricate, there you go. So this was early 90s. And I immediately thought, well, that's good. That track has a fairly standard kind of shuffly, groovy Manchester vibe to it. But obviously the lyrics and the vocals are what make it stand out. And I hadn't really heard anything like that before. And I'd heard about The Fall because like the cool guys at school listened to John Peel. And that was all, they were always talking about The Fall and Exmal Deutschland and Alien Sex Fiend and all these bands that I didn't really listen to because I was more a pop fan. I listened to I listened to the charts, and I liked David Bowie, and I liked Talking Heads and that kind of art rock. But really, I liked things like Haircut 100 and the Thompson Twins and those kinds of bands. And I wasn't listening to John Peel. So the Fall passed me by for a long time until the early 90s. And then, yeah, Telephone Thing. And then I got Extricate. And then I sort of went out from there.
I was going to say, did you go backwards or forwards?
I went forwards.
Right.
And then went backwards more recently, like when I say more recently, within the last 15, 20 years or something.
Yeah.
And discovered all that good stuff then. But when I met Mark in the late 90s, he came to a party for the TV show we were doing. Me and Joe made a show called The Adam and Joe Show in those days on Channel 4. And we had a segment where we invited Mark to come on and we went through his records.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, where was that filmed? Because I'm pretty sure that's not Mark's house, is it?
No, he didn't want to do it at his house. We had the segment was called Vinyl Justice, and me and Joe would dress up. Joe Cornish, would dress up as policemen and do silly accents and go through people's record collections and say, hello, you got an illegal record here. What are you doing with this? And, we'd pick out embarrassing stuff that people had. And usually we would do it where people lived, but he didn't want to do it in Salford. So he said, well, I'll do it in London. We'll just pretend that your flat is my flat. So that's how we did it. And it was in Clerkenwell. I just moved into this basement flat in Clerkenwell.
It was a good job I didn't say whose was that terrible flat.
And where did the records come from then? Was it his?
He brought the records with him. He brought a big bag of records with him. And there was a guy with him. So this is 1989. And there was a guy, I'm not sure if he was from the record company or if he was like a manager or someone like that. I don't even know if Mark had a manager in those days, did he?
Not really.
Of sorts.
Yeah.
Well, there was a younger guy who came along and sat in the corner smoking ciggies and drinking Special Brew. And
You're not narrowing it down.
No.
Mark,
There's no clues in there for us, but it might be.
Could be one of
anyone.
It could be one of many.
Mark had brought he'd brought some tins as well, and we'd also got in a bottle of vodka. This was all like we'd been told beforehand that it would be good to get in some booze, so we did. And our producer hired some riot policemen's uniforms, which was actually quite good because when we were filming the intro part where we're pretending to turn up and do a raid and knock on the door, he smacked us around quite.
I was going to say
quite forcefully.
That was quite a good method acting. I thought that it was very, very convincing, and probably because it was real. Is that right?
It was real. Yeah, he kind of. I mean, I guess he wasn't. He wasn't totally enraged. I think he was having fun, but he gave us a really good smack. Like first on the head, and we had our helmets on, so that was fine. Kicked us a few times in the legs, kind of pushed us to the ground,
Really?
and it went from there. In a fairly similar way, and he just drank more and more of the vodka until after about half an hour, because we only filmed for about an hour or something. After about half an hour, he just stopped talking and just stared into the distance, like it was as if he'd suddenly started having doubts and regretting being involved with this this thing.
He's regretting his entrance.
And then he just said, we were saying, "You're right, Mr. Smith, you stop talking there. Is there a problem?" And he said, "How much am I being paid?" And we hadn't agreed to a fee. We usually didn't give people a fee for doing that. It was a very low budget program. And so he said, "How much do you want?" He said, £200. So I ran over in my riot policeman's uniform to the other side of the square to get 200 quid out from my current account. And then I gave it to him. And I said, "Do you want to count it? It's all there." And he's like, No. And then he kind of softened. I think he was a little bit chastened by having held us to ransom, and we'd paid up very easily. And then he was more fun again. Although he did sit on Joe's head and hit him, put a plastic bag over his head and punched him repeatedly in the head, and then told him that he looked like a fucking boiled egg. He said, "You got a head like a fucking boiled egg."
Hey.
Hey.
Right, we'll mark that down. Another
Good-
impression.
Another impression. Yeah, that was pretty good.
That's a pretty good one, that. Yeah. You're up there with Henry Rollins and who else have we had good impressions from? Oh,
Yeah, what's it?
Richard Osman.
we
Not
forgot-
Richard Osman. Richard Osman. no,
Matt
Matt
Osman.
Osman. Yes.
Oh
Matt
yeah.
Osman's was pretty good.
Well,
Yeah,
and
we-
David Nolan's wasn't bad.
We forgot one the other night, didn't we?
I know you've forgotten it
Oh,
again.
I've forgotten it again. Yeah.
But yes, we do like to get an impression.
Sure.
Because-
Oh well, I won't be able to stop myself.
Right,
mean,
you carry
he
on.
had the thing about the Vinyl Justice piece that we did with him, though, was it had to cut down to about 3 minutes, because it was just supposed to be a silly piece in our TV show. And it always used to really bug me that we would go through people's records, and they were often people I really admired, like Mark, and we wouldn't really be able to focus on the actual records that they brought in because we'd just be larking around.
Yeah.
And I went back through the video a year or two ago and actually looked at some of the records that he had with him, and it was a really good selection. Like he had Miami Vice, well, the Miami Vice theme by Jan Hammer, and we did play that on the show.
Yeah.
He had a lot of country stuff, like he had an album of trucking songs,
Yeah. Yes,
including a
yes.
track
Yeah.
called Diesel Driving Devil by Don Bowman.
Not familiar with that one.
A little diesel driving devil puts his truck in overdrive. The greatest thing for you to do is ride. And so Mark would sing along with that. He thought that was a good one. There was Johnny Cash, Greatest Hits. There was, some of it was sort of the kind of thing you'd expect. Like he had Metal Machine music by Lou Reed.
Right.
And he claimed that it was good. I mean, I don't know if you've ever listened to Metal Machine music, but it's
How
tough.
often did he listen to it? That's what it's never off my turntable, Metal Machine music.
Right. He's always humming it. And Berlin Alexanderplatz, a TV series directed by Rainer Fassbinder from 1980. And there was the original soundtrack to that. He had Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood, that 1968 album.
Oh, great album.
Yeah, that's a good one. He had The Seeds, master recordings. I knew he liked them. He had Can, which is an obvious one, I guess, Eggy Bamiazi. He had High Scores by Boards of Canada, which I didn't realize he was into.
Means nothing in my booze on that one.
And he had Jay Truby and the Geeks, Blind Man's Penis. Do you know that
yeah,
one?
yeah, that's a good story, that, isn't it? How that record came about.
Yeah.
For the benefit of the listeners, if there was a thing in America, some label said, if you send us lyrics, we'll put them to a country and western song. So someone sent them the worst possible lyrics he could think of, and they made it, didn't they?
Yeah, they made the record. Yeah, yeah.
It's not a bad song.
It's good. Yeah, they got it. They got a sort of professional Nashville group of session players and a vocalist to cut a record based on these lyrics that this guy John Truby sent in. And it was originally he had sent in lyrics about Stevie Wonder's penis.
Okay.
And the guy had said, like, he was 18 or 17 at the time, and he just wanted to write the most offensive, stupid, obnoxious lyrics to see if this company would actually record them. And of course, the company, all they cared about was getting their $80 fee to actually do it. So they said, yeah, fine, we'll do it, no problem. But they changed Stevie Wonder to a blind man's penis. So it wasn't Stevie Wonder's penis, it was a blind man's penis.
Blind man's penis. Well, it could have still been both. It could have been both.
Yes, I suppose so. And that was their tasteful solution to the problem, and maybe getting around any possible legal problems.
So how did it end up then? After he'd stopped rolling, did he revert to type, or was he?
He was fine. I mean, I think we were both, me and Joe were a bit traumatized. I found it anxiety inducing because I was a big fan, and I just thought I didn't know where he was coming from. Like, I couldn't get a handle on, is he angry? Is he pissed off? Does he think we're dicks? Is he having fun? I couldn't tell. At the time, I thought that he was kind of taking the piss out of us because he thought we were too studenty, or I don't know what. Halfway through, we were recording and the phone rang in the flat. And this was before mobile phones and everything. And it went to the answering machine. And so everyone stopped, and it was our friend John, our editor, who was filming, and it was me and Joe, and it was Mark, and it was this other rando in the corner smoking and drinking.
We'll call him Mike.
Yeah.
Mike. And everyone stopped and listened to the answering machine message. And it was a friend of mine who's very kind of well-spoken young woman. And she said, "Hello, Adam. I hear you've just moved into your new flat in Clerkenwell. Sounds really cool. Can't wait to come round. Bye. Give me a call." And then Mark just sort of was delighted by this, and then just
Very
took the
odd.
piss out of
Very
me,
odd.
and did an impression of my friend going, "Hi, Adam. Oh, really cool. Can't wait to come round to your flat. Oh, so cool, Adam."
Now that
And
is a
I
very meta impression. That's an impression of Marky Smith doing an impression of your
someone
friend.
else.
of my
Yeah.
friend, yeah, that sounds a little bit like a League of Gentlemen character. But I was confused. And then, when Joe wasn't really, he wasn't a fan. Like, he didn't know about the fall, really. He was only doing it because I wanted to do it. And so he didn't know what to make of Mark. And we weren't used to dealing with anyone like that, really.
Well, who is?
So I found it quite distraughting. And then Louis Theroux, who is also a Fall fan, he was saying, "How did it go with Marky Smith?" Because
Is
he was a
Louis
friend
Theroux
of
a
ours.
Fall fan? Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. And he said, "How did it go with Marky Smith?" And I was like, "Oh man, it was pretty hardcore." And he said, "I'd love to see the rushes." And so we sent him like an hour or so, the hour or so of footage that we had. And he said, "Oh, it's good. What are you going to do with it?" And I was like, "Well, it's just going to come down to 3 minutes."
Down to 3 minutes.
But actually, there's a few clips that I put together that are floating around on the internet somewhere, actually, on YouTube, because I did an auction of some bits and pieces, and in the course of doing this online auction, I played a few clips of that encounter. So there are some extra bits and pieces out there if people are
Have you
interested.
not got the full?
I still got
Volta?
the full thing. Yeah, yeah. It's good fun. And when I was watching it back, actually, I was no longer, time had gone by. Marky Smith is no longer with us, and I wasn't so anxious watching it back.
After 20 years.
Time's a great healer.
He was no longer around to punch me in the head and kick me in the balls. So I watched it, and I was quite relaxed, and I just enjoyed watching it for the first time since we'd shot it. And I could see, I'm pretty sure that I'm right, that he was having fun. And
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
he
It
was
would have been, yeah.
he was trying
To
to
mention that even in the 3 minutes.
yeah. I mean, he was trying to he himself,
got-
I think, was trying to find the right
Yeah, his own
tone.
kind of fun, yeah.
Yeah. He was trying to be, he was being silly and he was being aggressive, but he was he was doing it for a laugh.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
he wasn't
definitely. Yeah.
he wasn't being mean. I mean,
But
was that
you had 20 years of thinking that he was actually really trying to kick you in the head.
a little bit? I mean, I had bumped into him a couple of times after that. About 10 or 15 years later, I bumped into him at Green Man Festival. And I was a little nervous when I saw him approaching. He'd just been interviewed on stage, and he'd been fairly terse on
Yeah.
stage with the
I
interviewer.
think that, yeah.
Yeah. What year would that have been?
What year would that have been? I'm not sure. Like 2014 or thereabouts, or not exactly sure. But so I saw him approaching, and I thought, "Uh-oh, how's this going to go?" And actually, he was very friendly, and he said hi. And I was like, "Oh, I'm Adam Buxton. Do you remember we did a thing ages ago?" He's like, "Ah, fucking, I remember. Yeah, yeah. How you doing, Adam? Yeah, it's nice to see you. Yeah, yeah. How's it going?" And we had a nice chat. It was good to see him, and I think that was the last time, actually. So I think it would have been a couple of years before he died that I saw him at the Green Man Festival, and it was nice to see him. Actually, we had discussed a few years before that, like after we did the thing for our TV show, we had been in touch because I had suggested maybe filming him and doing some kind of doc. And and surprisingly, he seemed to be up for it.
Right.
And he said, "Yeah, great. Let's do something." And I was going to go to Salford and spend a few days like hanging out and filming him and seeing what happened, really.
Yeah.
But it never came together. Like the day that I was supposed to go, I phoned him up just to check that he was still on for it, and he wasn't answering his phone.
Right.
And that was it. Even
Ah,
though
that's a shame, isn't it?
we kind of arranged it all, but I guess he was doing everything himself then. There was no question of contacting management or anything like that. It was
Right.
just him
No.
directly, and then he went quiet.
You could have done a video because you did video with Frank Black, didn't you?
Yeah, we did a couple of videos actually, me and Joe. We did one for Frank Black. We did one for Gorky's Zygotic Monkey, a Welsh band. And we've done a few since then, or I've done a few since then as well. So yeah, it would have been fun, but oh well.
Fantastic. So that was the last time you saw The Fall live as well as the last time you saw Mark, was it?
I think that was the last time I saw The Fall live, was at the Green Man Festival, whenever that would have been, and they were really good.
Yeah.
And I
They
think
were
it
great,
was
that band at the end.
yeah. I think my friend Mike was in the band as well, and he was playing keyboards. He's a promoter. Do you know him?
No.
Don't know him. No, I know of him, but
Yeah.
He's a really nice guy. But and I'd done a few gigs. I'd done a few gigs for him, and then one day he suddenly said, "Oh, I just joined The Fall." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm playing keyboards." He's a Manchester guy himself.
Right.
And he was playing in the last lineup of The Fall, and they were excellent.
Probably after Eleni
Yeah.
left, I would assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they were. But it's a theme we keep going back to on the podcast is just how good that last lineup was, and contrary to all popular myth, how long they lasted as well. I mean, they were together a long time. That lineup.
Yeah, Mike Clapham, that's his name. Sorry,
Okay.
apologies, Mike. But he's still going. He's still promoting.
How did he end up joining The Fall? Do you know?
I've got no idea. He's one of those guys. I think he's probably a really fascinating guy, actually, because promoters, they're very good at blending in and just networking, and they meet so many people. Like he gets American comedians over to this country every now and again, and he got Bill Burr. Do you know Bill Burr?
Again, I'm not overly familiar with his oeuvre, but I have heard the name.
Yeah, he's good. He's like a really big American comedian, quite edgy comic. And he got Bill Burr to come over, and actually he managed to get Bill Burr to agree to come on my podcast as well. And I went over. I was in Los Angeles and went to the Comedy Store, the legendary Comedy Store, to meet Bill Burr. And I was very nervous. And then at the end of what I would classify as a slightly awkward conversation between me and Bill Burr, who are, I mean, he couldn't really be more different to me. You know, he's one of these guys. He's kind of, he's got a lot of rage, and he talks a lot about his rage. He's very funny. Yeah. But at the end of and also he's quite a conspiracy theorist as well. We were talking about conspiracy theories, and I said, "Oh God, you sound like one of these people who think that we didn't land on the moon." He's like, "Can you prove we did?" And I was like, "Okay." And then at the end of the conversation, Joe Rogan turned up. So this was a long time ago. This must have been 2017 or something. Yeah. And before, I mean, Joe Rogan was big, but he wasn't like the behemoth that he has since become.
Indeed,
yeah. Anyway, that was all thanks to Mike Clapham, keyboard player of the last lineup of The Fall.
Right, we'll have to get him on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a story, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. If we can make some kind of junction with Mr. Clapham, then we could get him on. I don't know what we're going to call the episode, but there you go. What was the first time you saw The Fall then?
The first time was in, I think it was the Astoria in London, which no longer exists, does it? I think that was...
it was a nice venue.
Yeah, it was Tottenham Court Road. And I think it was, maybe it was just before we did the Vinyl Justice segment. So that would have been 1998.
Right.
And I didn't really like it. I thought it was, I was a bit confused by it. I've never really been like I am much more of a fan of live music now, but back then I wasn't really into it. Partly
Who-
because I'm quite short, so I
Yeah.
can never really see.
Who was it? Could you see who was in the band? I think
Not
he's one of my
really. All I remember in those days I used to drink a lot more than I do now. So if I went to a show like that, I couldn't see, and all I would do is just go to the bar and just get pint after pint, and pretty soon I'd be quite hammered, and then I'd just want to go. Really, it would just be sort of, I'd just be like physically uncomfortable. It was like
Yeah.
it's too hot and too loud, and the music, it wasn't connecting with me. I remember thinking like, what is he doing? It just sounded like a mess. And I was looking over and he was doing the thing of wandering around and pushing, like fiddling with everyone's knobs.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. I think,
And
I think that was possibly one of my last gigs. If it
was
was
it?
if it was 1998, yeah,
Yeah.
we
Can we
played
have a
this.
look?
We played the Astoria with me and Carl and Tommy.
Oh, right. So
Okay.
that
Yeah,
definitely would have been one of your last
yeah.
gigs, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
1990. There is a very handy tool online for those of you who are following along at home called the Fall Gigography. And you just put Fall Gigography 1998 and it'll show you every gig they played that year and whether there was a bootleg. Not that I've
And-
looked at it much, but I seem to spend half my
And,
life on
and
there.
it tells you who was drunk at the bar as well.
Yeah,
Who didn't properly appreciate the
yeah.
show? And I'm afraid that would have been me on that occasion. And I think, I think maybe Louis came along to that one actually. But
It didn't put
I
you off.
well, it didn't put me off the music because I always liked the music, like constantly ever since I got into it, which is 91 or 92. Ever since then, it's been part of my life really, and I've just listened to full music constantly. And oh yeah, the thing I was going to say was that when he came along to the party for the TV show after we'd shot the piece, we invited him. Like we always had a transmission party, and we'd invite everybody who helped with the show. And we kind of invited him out of courtesy. Really, we didn't think that he would come along, but he came along with the whole band, pretty much. I think.
Right.
Um, did you come to that?
No.
Maybe. Oh, okay.
Uh,
Well, there was a few people who came along, and I was surprised that he showed up. It was at this place called the TARDIS in Clerkenwell. Yeah, very big place, deceptively large, and I think he had a good time at that one. But again, it was weird having him there and not really knowing how he was going to respond to, like my mum and dad were there, and I was like,
Okay.
do I introduce my mum and dad to Marquis Smith?
Yeah, but your dad was a seasoned TV professional, wasn't he?
Yeah, he would have been fine, I'm sure.
He'd
They
have got on
probably would.
he'd have got on
You know
real
what?
well.
They would have probably gone on like a house on fire. And he was saying, "Oh yeah, I'd made a compilation. That's right, and I wanted him to sign it for me. I'd made a CD compilation of all my favorite fall stuff at that point, and he looked at the track listing and he was quite happy because it was all fairly recent stuff."
Yeah.
Right.
Like it was modern stuff, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's good to see that it's not all just um, Palace of Swords reversed." I don't even know what is that a compilation,
It is
It is.
a very early compilation, yes.
right? So he said, "Oh yeah, it's usually when nerds make full compilations, it's all just Palace of Swords reversed," and so he was happy that I was concentrating on more of the recent stuff, the more electronic-y stuff. And I really like that because the albums that connected hardest early on were oh god, now I'm having a senior moment. You know, Birmingham School of Business School. What's that one?
Cold Selfish.
Code Selfish, and then the one after that one as well.
You're both going to have a senior moment here. What was the one after Cold Selfish?
Was it? Oh, was it?
Infotainment Scam.
Entertainment Scam,
Yeah,
yes.
there's a bit of gap there. Yeah.
A bit of a gap. We'll edit that out. We'll fix that in post.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're talking about the Dave Bush years, yeah, here then. So with all the keyboards and the beats.
Yeah, I really like that
Fabulous
stuff.
time,
Yeah.
that. Again, but talked about that a lot. That's my favourite cover the Fall ever did, Lost in Music. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. That was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they've done some crappy covers. Didn't do any covers when I was in the band, except for Do the Huckleboat, which doesn't really
Doesn't
count.
really count.
Doesn't really count. But Ghost in My House, rotten.
Did you not like that one?
I did not like their version of Ghost in My House. No.
Why not?
It's all right.
I don't think it. I think it was too like the original. I don't think it added anything, or in fact took anything away. It was just
a copy.
Just a copy.
Yeah.
Because well,
It
there's
was
Victoria
fairly
and a
faithful.
couple of others are really good, but when you
Yeah, that's a good point. It was fairly straightforward, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
R. Dean Taylor.
Yeah, you should have done Indiana Wants Me. That's a better song anyway.
Yeah, the covers were always good. I liked
After
The Mummy.
The
You know,
That's
that
the
one-
guy. My mummy's
That's
great. Yeah,
good.
that's really good. See, that's the kind of cover version you want to be doing, not straight copies of chart hits.
It was Beggar's Banquet's idea.
Oh, here we go. The record company
made
it.
us do it.
Yeah. They put that shirt on you as well, didn't they?
I liked
Yeah,
it though.
actually.
I thought it was pretty good, I must say. I guess because
Oh no, it wasn't. But it was Phonogram.
Phonogram, yes.
Phonogram, right?
Yeah.
No, I always liked the song anyway. Ghost in My House, that is.
It's a great song.
So
The
it was-
only white man on Motown, Dean Taylor, by
By all accounts.
I was surprised to find out he was a white guy. I must say, I
Yeah.
always kind of assumed that he was a black guy. It was a,
you would, wouldn't you?
like
Yeah.
a soul track,
I might be wrong, but I believe he was the in-house tambourine player.
right?
So that's a gig, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got my
On
tambourine.
Motown,
Yeah.
you'd be busy.
Yeah,
You'd
I'm off.
always be busy every day.
Yeah,
Great.
I'm off. There we go.
Playing on another classic, yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's the loading of dreams, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll bring me tambourine, happy days. Walk past the drummer on the way up the stairs. Right, so you did mention before that you quite like Bowie. Now, Bowie.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Bowie.
another debate. I think that's something of a understatement, isn't it?
I do like him. Yeah, I do love him. I mean, I've always had a strange relationship with him, I think, because he is in so many ways quite a ridiculous figure as well. And I really that was always a central part of my appreciation for him and his career, was all the ridiculous parts of it as well. And the fact that he early on, wanted to be famous so much that he would have pretty much done anything to
Yeah.
to get famous.
Well, it depends on what you categorise as ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, there's you could see it as a not being scared of making a fool of yourself at times, which is quite admirable.
I mean, there was the straightforwardly ridiculous stuff like Laughing Gnome.
Yeah. And that term he had on when he did Space Oddity, that was fairly ridiculous, wasn't
it? But I always liked the Laughing Gnome. I thought that was pretty good and funny, and it was like, well, it's a kid's record. What do you want? It's not trying to be cool.
Yeah.
And I liked all the Tony Newley stuff he did early on in his career.
I really liked all that stuff.
Yeah.
Uncle Arthur and that kind of stuff.
Exactly. But then I suppose it was, he could be quite pretentious, I suppose. And but I like that as well. But I it was funny.
He took himself too seriously, did he?
I think he did. I think he divided his time between taking himself very seriously and then easing up and having a laugh. And he definitely had a good sense of humor, and that's I suppose what I appreciated.
I mean, it might have to do with whatever he was imbibing at the period.
I think that had a bit of a.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think cocaine probably robs you of your sense of humor a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and the famous one when he stood on the limo with giving the salute, I don't think he was. There was a funny edge to that, really, was there? I don't think.
Well, that's it. I was having this exact conversation with someone the other day.
And be asked the camera. Sorry, go on.
Well, because it's a very it continues to be a sore point in the Bowie fanosphere.
Yes.
Is like, was he giving a Nazi salute? Because, that was one of the moments that really catalyzed the Rock Against Racism movement in the late 70s. And Bowie was lumped in with people like Eric Clapton.
Well, you can't. Have you heard that rant that Eric Clapton gave?
Yeah, it's really shocking.
Excuse my French. How he ever found a way back from that, I don't know.
No, it's shocking. It's like 2 minutes worth of him going on about Middle Eastern people and just in the most appalling way. And Bowie never did anything like that
Yeah,
at
no,
all.
no,
You know,
no.
Nothing like that. No.
I don't believe. I just don't believe that he was a racist. However,
No.
much more plausible is that he was what would now be called a heterodox thinker, i.e., someone who is up for pushing buttons and exploring and reading about dodgy and edgy stuff. And he probably would have had a podcast
Yeah.
discussing conspiracy theories if he'd been around today, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least he would have been talking with people that you're not supposed to talk to, or getting into quite,
Yeah.
he probably would have been hanging out with Elon Musk or something. Maybe not now, but a few years
Oh,
ago.
yeah, at that period, maybe, yeah. But I mean, there's a bit of that about Mark as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, I
I
was
think?
going to say.
Yeah, I mean, it
it's,
can bite you on the arse, that stuff. I mean, Steve Albini was a bit like that, and some of the stuff he did recount it completely, and he was a really nice guy, Steve Albini. But some of
Yeah.
the stuff he said early on, but I think with that, it was clearly so over the top that he couldn't have meant it. So, but it's a thin line, isn't it?
It is, and I think for people like that who are, just curious minded
Yeah,
and want to hear about all sorts of things, and they're quite fascinated by extreme views and extreme opinions and anything kind of that's pushing the envelope a little bit.
yeah,
They're drawn towards it, or they want to find out, like, what's making this guy tick.
yeah.
And in the process of doing that, yeah, you can kind of come a cropper and find yourself associated with some fairly unsavory views or unsavory people. When Bowie was at Victoria Station and he gave that wave or salute or whatever, I mean, I always felt like he wasn't saluting. He was waving and the camera caught him
I
halfway
think
up,
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was my take on it. But then I was talking to someone the other day who was like, no, I think he was saluting, but I think he was doing it as like a lark,
Yeah,
and thought that it was a bit of an edgy thing to do. Obviously, now in 2025,
Yeah.
it means, I mean, it would have been dodgy back then, obviously,
yeah.
but now it's like beyond appalling to do something
Yes,
like
yeah.
that.
I mean, that's the other one. You can't. I mean, I don't think Nazi salutes quite fall into the different times, does it? You
No,
can't hold that against someone making a Nazi salute. Everyone was doing it in 1974.
Yeah.
You quite get
Yeah,
away
well,
with
I
that.
mean, but I guess for earlier generations, for younger generations, like for people like the Goons and
Yeah,
things like that, people who had been alive during the Second World War when Hitler was this different kind of figure, and that was part of their relationship with what was going on, was just to take the piss out of him in that way, even though
yeah,
obviously we know now what a incredibly, and they knew then obviously that he was this sinister figure, but still it was like, you're still like, I found a video of my some of my mum's old videos of her family when they were growing up, cine films and things like that, and her little brother, he's in this home movie, and he's like 10 years old out in Chile where my mum grew up, and he's doing a Hitler impression. And it's, he's taking the piss,
yes,
but it's so shocking, even just to see like a kid, doing the impression and doing the silly salute and doing
yeah.
the silly, and pretending he's got the moustache. And you're like, no, don't even go there. Don't. But in those days, it was like, ha ha,
I
stupid
mean,
Hitler. Let's
Freddie
take the piss
Starr was
out of the
still
guy.
doing Hitler in 1976, wasn't it?
Say again.
Freddie Starr was still doing Hitler in
Mm-hmm.
1976.
Right. Yes. There you go.
The wellies off.
Was that before or after he ate his hamster?
Well, he never
Nothing
ate the
no,
hamster, did he? It's a complete lie. That completely made up by Max Clifford. That story.
Oh,
Can
didn't
you
even have a
believe
bit.
that front page of the Sun and it was made up?
Shocking. I can't
We
believe
haven't
it.
even gone back to discuss your career yet, because we discussed it. How did you go from being at school to having your own TV show on Channel 4 in that space of time?
Oh, I mean, it was quite a long time.
wasn't a long time.
Me and Joe were in our late 20s by the time we were on TV.
Oh well,
Okay.
okay.
So
Ancient.
a good 10 years had gone by. Maybe not the whole of 10 years, but basically we spent a long time pissing around. Joe went to film school after we left school in London, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was just wandering around. Eventually, I ended up going to art school, which is something I should have done immediately. But for about 6 or 7 years, we were really not doing very much. Joe was working at a film company in London, just, faxing things and getting people coffee. I was working as a bartender in the West End in London for a long time. And I did some DJing, pretended to be an American DJ at a 50s theme restaurant, and actually would play a lot of the music. I was ended up being quite familiar with a lot of the songs the Fall would cover because they were a lot of
Yeah.
those 50s things. But all the time we would be making videos like that. That was part of our relationship since we met. Me and Joe were like 13 or something when we became friends. And my dad was a writer for the Sunday Telegraph. He would write travel pieces for them. And he got lent a video camera in the early 80s, one of the very first home video cameras. And it was this thing that you had to plug into, basically a whole VCR that you would carry around on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And then you'd have the camera plugged in by a big, thick rubber cord. And we got to borrow this home video player, and we just made loads of videos using that and had a good time, and would recreate Monty Python sketches and Not the 9 O'Clock News sketches and things like that. And we carried on doing that for years and years and years, and ended up sending some of the stuff into a TV show called Takeover TV.
Yeah.
And I sent some of the pieces that I'd been making at art college, because I did a lot of video stuff there. And I sang over a track by the Velvet Underground. It was like an instrumental track. Guess I'm Falling in Love Again. And I sang some lyrics that were I was pretending to be like a performance artist called Randy Tart. And you know what? It was, talking of Henry Rollins, I'd seen Henry Rollins on The Late Show.
Okay.
And he was really intense. Like, I know he's a funny guy now, and he's always had a really good sense of humor, but they had this profile of Rollins on The Late Show, and he was so intense and kind
when
of...
he was in Black Flag. Scary guy.
I think it was just after he left Black Flag, and he was in solo mode, and he played a festival, maybe it was Reading or somewhere like that, in the early 90s or late 80s. And there's this great footage of him, all stripped down, super muscly, all sweaty, kind of leaning forward in his shorts. He's got his leg up on the monitor, and he's kind of striking his pose and flexing his muscles. And he's singing this song about, he's kind of taking the piss out of you British people with your everything's all rainy. You got your Johnny Rotten records. You think you're so cool. And he's really going for the audience, taking the piss out of them.
Great.
And you can hear someone going, "Shut up, you boring old bastard." And then he was on the Late Show, and he was so intense and angry, and he was really going through some stuff, I think, at that point in his career. Anyway, so my song Randy Tart was inspired a little bit by him. But it got me the gig on this TV show on Takeover TV, which I ended up presenting, and this was in 1995. And then then I got Joe involved when I got the gig to do another series of that, presenting the thing. And then we transitioned from doing that to having our own show, because we got on well with the commissioning editor at Channel 4, who was the commissioning editor for religion and features rather than entertainment. Because, because of Takeover TV was a bit like public access, really. So it wasn't part of the entertainment department. It was this weird thing.
Take that over where you want. It wasn't part of the entertainment genre.
No, it wasn't strictly speaking entertainment. It was Channel 4 fulfilling its remit to allow expression by ordinary members of the public.
That can't have been what they were expecting, surely. When that cannot have been. Let's ask members of the public to go on TV, but it can't have been them remaking films with cuddly toys, surely.
No, it wasn't. I think originally well, Takeover TV originally was a mix of serious pieces that people had sent in. So talking about, complaining about the council or whatever, and saying, when are they going to do something about the bins? And then it was, or people, or reading poetry or doing things like that, and then there was a few comedy clips in there. But after a while, they realized that they were best off just concentrating on the funny stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the way it went. And so that's what our show was just taking the mick out of everything on mainstream TV, I suppose, and mainstream entertainment films and TV
I've
shows. and
particularly
whatnot.
enjoyed your recreation of Shakespeare in Love, which is, well, it's it's my wife's favourite film, Shakespeare.
Oh,
in Love.
yeah.
I will show her that. I was very impressed. It's coming from a place of love, I think.
Well, that was one of Joe's, I think, because we would divvy them up because they took so long to do the toy movies.
Yeah.
They were really fun. I would listen to a lot of The Fall while we were making those. Like late nights, if you go, every now and again, I have to go back through the rushes, or I was digitizing a lot of rushes in the lockdown because I still have all the rushes from that show. And I thought, okay, I've got some time on my hands. I'll digitize everything. And it was fun watching them all get ingested, and I could actually hear what was going on while we were making the toy movies, and you can hear all the stuff that I was listening to, and almost all of it was The Fall, making those toy movies, and it was fun. But yeah, Joe did Shakespeare in Love, I believe
Yes,
it was
indeed.
called, and he did Titanic as well, which was, I think, generally considered to be perhaps one of the best ones we did, much to my annoyance at the time, because it started getting very competitive. The whole toy movie
Yeah.
effort was after we made the decision to do them separately.
Yeah.
It became incredibly competitive, and when Joe announced that he was going to do Titanic, and I turned up at the studio that we were renting at the time and found this giant model of Titanic, like 8 foot
Beat that.
long and 5 foot high, dominating the entire studio. I should have been delighted that Joe had
Yes.
made such an effort for an item on our show, but I was just incredibly threatened and competitive about it.
And what did you do?
I think I did. I spent a lot of time on a stuffed toy version of Star Trek: The Next Generation,
Okay.
which was not. It was in no way.
More character driven than Titanic. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it looked great. I'm still happy with the attention to detail and all the sets and the costumes that we made for all the little toys and everything. But no, I don't think anyone is remembering my version of Star Trek: The Next Generation fondly.
So you were one of the early pioneers of podcasting, weren't you? I think.
I suppose so. Well, me and Joe got into it in 2006, which was when Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant were doing a podcast at XFM.
Yeah.
With Carl Pilkington.
Yes.
And their show was very popular on XFM. And then they went and did this separate podcast, which they sold. They did it through The Guardian, I think. And you could pay £1 to download their podcast, which we never did. But like we never charged people.
How did you listen to podcasts in them days? I can't remember.
I think you just downloaded them to your computer. I don't think you could listen to them on your phone.
Right.
Because phones in those days, it was still just, if you could customize your ringtone, then that was as advanced as it got, really.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? As soon as everybody could customize their ringtone, everybody got the same ringtone. No, who has a customized ringtone these days? Phone goes off in a shop and everybody picks the phone up.
Well, now people have just bits of like the actual track. And so you just get long, inappropriate bits of music playing on the train every now and again.
I never heard that. I was just people with phones sound like a phone from 1955.
Yeah. I know. Well, ringtones is weird. You don't need a ringtone now, do you? You just go.
Yeah. You've got it before it starts making a noise. Yeah. Crazy Frog was a bit early, I think.
Crazy Frog was a good one.
So, if you were on the Radio 6, weren't you, at first? Or, well, nobody called it Radio 6. It was 6 Music. Was it ever Radio 6?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know. I think it was 6 Music always. No, maybe you're right. Maybe it was just 6. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, we got there. We got there in 2007. I think we'd been at XFM for a few years, and at first it was quite uncomfortable to be there. I really didn't like live radio, because I was used to just being on my own, basically making the Adam and Joe show. It would be like many, many weeks of just being on my own, doing toy movies, listening to The Fall. And then me and Joe would come together and film bits and pieces for the show for a few weeks. But it was all edited by us, and we got it the way we wanted it to be. That was the fun of doing it ourselves and making it homemade, was that we could make it precisely the way we wanted it.
So was there no editorial interference at all then? There was nobody...
No, not really. Not really. A couple of times we got an editorial note from Channel 4 about taste. We had a compilation of moments from movies where there's a air crash, and our favorite air crash moments. And our commissioning editor said, that's in pretty poor taste. But actually we convinced him to do it. There's some really good air crash moments. We had the bit from Die Hard 2.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. There's the bit from Fearless.
Don't remember that.
Oh, that's an amazing movie with Jeff Bridges. There's a horrific air crash in that, and then Alive with the football team.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Anyway, but no, generally they left us alone completely. It was great. But what I'm saying, I suppose, is that I never really had any background in doing live stuff. Like, we never did stand up or anything like that. So we got on the radio and I kind of froze when we were live. I found it really quite overwhelming and nerve wracking. And my brain would just switch off, which it still does every now and again, I must say. And Joe never really had that problem. He was always quite confident and cocky, and he would carry on being funny, and it wasn't an issue for him. But I was really in my own head a lot of the time, and he would read out things that people were texting. He was at the computer at XFM, and if we got a bit of abuse, which we did quite a lot, people just saying, shut up and play some music. And every now and again, he would read it out and it would make me really angry. Like, it would just get in my head. And I was like, how can I relax if you're reading out these abusive comments from people? We had a big row about it one day.
On air?
It was off air. It was between the songs. And we ended up having to play about 3 songs back to back because we were having this massive row. So we just played The Darkness about 3 times. Yeah. And then basically we sort of shoved it down. We never really talked about our problems too well in those days. We preferred not to deal with them. And it became less of an issue after a while, as when we got comfortable. But the thing that transformed everything was the podcast, because we were able to cut all the, or rather I was able, because I did all the editing. I just cut all the awful bits out and kept just the other 3 minutes of mildly funny bits from the 3-hour live show. And then I started doing jingles and, putting lots of effort into the production of the thing to try and compensate for my lack of entertainment value on the actual live show. And it was really fun, and people actually got into it. So, by modern standards, it was a tiny number of people that were actually listening to the XFM podcast. But it was enough people that we started getting a bit of a buzz around it. And then the BBC invited us to fill in for Sean Keaveney when he was away for a couple of weeks on 6 Music. And then we got offered a full-time slot on Saturday mornings. And we did that for about 4 years, I think, until 2011. And that was really fun. That ended up being the most fun I ever had with Joe, I think, professionally. I loved doing the TV show, but it was stressful. And as far as actually having a proper laugh and really enjoying his company, it was the radio that was the most fun, and the podcast.
Because your podcast you do now is a very different beast. It's quite serious at times.
Yeah, it can be. Well, I've just put out an episode with Natalie Roberts, who is the UK director of MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières, who's this international aid agency. And, we talked about the work in Syria and Yemen and Gaza. And yeah, that was a pretty serious conversation. It's not typical of the podcast. On the whole, I tend to talk to comedians because that's who most of my friends are. Louis comes on fairly often, and he tends to be a popular guest.
Yeah.
Joe comes on every Christmas, and we have our traditional Christmas get together. And then the rest of the time, it's whoever is interesting who is up for being on the podcast. And every now and again, that is someone quite famous. Well, David Byrne of Talking Heads came on recently, and Eric Idle
was
of
he?
Monty Python was a recent guest.
Oh, David Byrne.
David Byrne was great, actually. I was nervous about it because, well, he's a hero. Like, he's up there with Bowie as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But I never, whereas Bowie, I think, was very kind of gregarious. He would have been a great guest. He would have
Yeah.
chatted away. But I never expected that David Byrne would be like that, because I think he's quite awkward, and that's not what I think of him as being good at. Really, is chatting. Even though he's perfectly good, and he's very, like, he laughs very easily, and he was in a good mood. And actually, people said afterwards, a couple of people said to me, like, "Oh, you didn't ask him about his relationship with the rest of the band, like how he fell out with some of them." And are you guys Talking Heads fans?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you read Chris Francis' book?
I've not read it. I must read
No.
that.
No, he's not very kind about him, is he?
No.
It's very bitter. And it's a good book, and it's, if you're a fan, it's definitely worth reading. And listen, I am sure that it was not easy being in a band with David Byrne, and you guys know better than anyone. Well, exactly.
It's a walk in the park.
Exactly. So it's hard. I think it must be hard. It's hard doing anything with someone you're close to, or a friend or whatever. I mean, it was hard being in a comedy duo with me and Joe. We had lots of stressful moments. I'm sure it's really hard in a band. I'm always amazed that bands stay together as long as they do. There's so much potential there for conflict.
That if they got back together, they'd do really, really
I was
well.
going to say, are the rest of them not pissed off that they've not got back together? Is that not part of the
Talking Heads?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think they were just so. It seems like they're so angry with being written out of the narrative.
I can imagine.
And it feels like Tina Weymouth and Chris Francis especially are so, feel that people ignore their contribution, and because they made a really, critical contribution to that band. They were absolutely crucial to Remain in Light coming together the way it did. Tina Weymouth and Chris Francis were pretty much solely responsible for the cover design and things like that. All these brilliant aspects to what Talking Heads did. They were all very important. But I always knew that. I always felt like, I mean, most of the fans know that. Like, they were a brilliant band because all four of them were so important. And David Byrne was brilliant, but they all were incredibly valuable. So I felt sad reading Chris Francis' book because I felt like he was so angry still. And I thought
it's not a good place to write a book from, that, is it?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit unfair. I felt like there were times when he was expecting too much. Like, he talks about being in a taxi with the whole band and Tom Tom Club, their side project. Chris Francis and Tina Weymouth had just had a big hit. Maybe the album had gone to number one, or one of the tracks. Anyway, they'd had a big hit with the Tom Tom Club record. And he writes in his book about how David Byrne didn't really say anything about it. Like, he was saying, well, why didn't he just congratulate us? But I was thinking, I don't know, there could be lots of reasons. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he was feeling insecure. Maybe he was thinking, oh God, here I am slaving away, and they've had a bigger hit than Talking Heads have ever had with this record.
I don't. I think
maybe he's worried who was paying for the taxi.
You should have said. You just had a number one.
You can...
the PRS from Genius of Love is going to keep you in taxis for the next 100 years, so you can pay for this stuff.
But how did it? Let me ask you a question then. Because I sometimes think that the solution to conflict within a band is just to have very clearly delineated roles. And so if everyone knows, like, well, there's one guy and they're in charge, then it's a lot easier. It's when a band tries to be more of a democracy that the cracks.
I don't think it ever works.
No.
Democracy thing. It's a very difficult thing to pull off in a band. But there's levels of dictatorship, and there's and like you said, if people have roles, then that's great. But where it gets difficult is when someone starts telling someone else what their role is. I think that can get a bit hairy. Not talking about any particular band.
No.
Let's say the singer told the drummer how to play the drums, for instance, plucking something completely out of the air.
Where'd you get that from?
That's when it gets a bit difficult. It changed with the Fall, though, didn't it? I think.
Yeah, it was kind of fluctuated up and down different ways over the years. Yeah.
Having said that, I think the music was.
I think I've probably said this before, but I have said this before. I know.
Yeah.
You'd need somebody with the final say because it's music. There's no right or wrong.
No.
It's just opinions.
Yeah.
So you could write a song and you'd think that sounds great with a harmonica on it, and somebody else would think that sounds great with a 20-piece orchestra on it, and nobody's wrong.
No.
So I think you do need somebody to give the final if you're gonna, or not go around the houses about everything.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think the thing about the Fall, the music was always pretty democratic.
The music was always pretty democratic.
How did it work? I've always wondered how it worked. So, like, I mean, one of the first LPs that you worked on, maybe it wasn't both of you, but was Dragnet, and you were on Dragnet, right?
Not a great example because
had that already been done by the time you got there?
The songs had pretty much, they've been written when me and Craig joined. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, say, what about like Slates or Hex Induction Hour?
Slates was Mark and Craig, wasn't it?
Mainly Mark and Craig with the songwriting. Yeah.
But Hex Induction Hour was everybody was having a go, weren't they? I think. So the thing we always say about the Fall is there's that much output with the Fall. Any possible way of writing a song you can think of.
We tried it.
Okay, so there was no typical way. You wouldn't turn up.
Yeah, you'd say the typical way was the most typical way would be that somebody would turn up with an idea, a guitar riff or a guitar riff and a drum beat, and then this usually ended up the best songs. That then everybody would work on it, and everyone had had their bit, and then yeah.
And would that happen within a few hours, or did that process take days?
No. There's never days. No.
If it takes more than an hour and a half, I think that
you know it's not working. Yeah.
There was no grinding out.
No.
But you did it for a lot longer than I did, but it was never difficult, was it? There was never.
It was never a shortage of material.
And would Mark be fairly easygoing about it and encouraging, or was he was he stomping around and going, no, I want something different?
Bit of
that, but how it kind of worked is like people like we'd go for a songwriting session and you'd turn up with 3 ideas, and Craig would turn up with 3 ideas, and Mark, and you'd be kind of lucky if you got one used. And then they'd and you'd come out of that songwriting session with 3 new songs. But funnily enough, the others never got used.
No, never went back to them.
Never went back to them. So Mark had picked one that he wanted to do out of the 3 that you brought, whatever. And then the other 2 would never get used.
Yeah, quite healthy that, I think.
Yeah.
No, but I don't think he was very precious about their. Like I've written this one, we've got to do it, and we've got to do it this way. Because that's when it gets a bit difficult. Because I've been in bands with that, where someone comes in, this is the guitar line, I want this bass line on it, I want it to be this speed, I want you to play this beat. And there was not much of that in the Fall ever, was there?
No.
I mean, even Mark, Because the one thing we always say, nobody had the language to tell people what to do properly. Because nobody could write music. No one could even knew what certain things were called, or what this. Craig would just show with a chord. Even he wouldn't be able to say that's an E7 diminished 5+3 or anything like that. He put this finger there, that finger there. So it was very difficult to dictate what other people would play because you didn't have the language to do it.
And then would he come up with lyrics based on what he was hearing musically, or would he come in with stuff that he'd already written?
Generally, he'd have a bag full, and
Yeah.
whatever he thought fitted to that particular piece of music, he'd make it fit.
That's got to be the way to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how people. The one method of writing songs that never really happened in the Fall, as far as I'm aware, is where Mark would bring a lyric in and say, "I need you to put an appropriate piece of music to this."
No,
that never happened.
Well, not
and he never came in. Did he ever come in with a piece of music himself? Did he ever say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I thought of this wonderful tune"?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
The odd time. Yeah.
Pay Your Rates on Grotesque. That's one of Mark's.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. So that's the kind of. Yeah. So he did. Yeah.
Did he play guitar?
And he'd have abstract sort of descriptions of what he wanted.
Yeah. Make it sound play it like a snake, or make it sound like a cardboard box.
I've got this tape here of the ice cream van and the wind blowing against the window. I want it to sound like that.
Music, Marky Smith.
Still looking for ice cream man to pay him.
Yeah, he could play a little bit guitar. He wasn't riffs. He had some good riffs. Yeah. He played guitar on a couple of records as well.
Yeah.
Right. I can't think of him actually with a guitar in his hand.
I don't think he ever did it much on stage, did he?
Didn't pick one up the odd time and
launch it across the stage. Any other questions before we call it a day?
Well, no, nothing specific. I mean, it's fascinating hearing about all that. No, I'm yeah,
sick of talking about it. What a terrible idea of a full podcast.
When are you going to write your angry, bitter book?
Me? I'm not angry. I'm neither angry nor bitter. Have you read Steve's book? Steve's I was saying it's a bad place to write a book from that place of anger. I think
definitely
moved on.
Years. It took me years,
which is why I think Steve's book's so successful, I think.
Yeah. And by the way, I wasn't having a pop at anyone else who's written a full book. I was thinking
No.
Right, well, I think our hour's up. We've got someone banging on the door to use the studio.
Okay, well, listen, it was so nice to talk to you.
You too, man. You
Fabulous,
too.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Oh Brother. You can find all our previous episodes on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be hosted at shows.acast.com/o-brother. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like. Tell your friends about us. Episodes are released every second Friday, so watch for the next episode in 2 weeks. See you next time, and remember, if you're driving, take your car. Ta-da.